So I want to ask you a bit about your journey as a vocalist.
Right.
Are you ready?
I'm always ready.
So first question goes that what actually got you into metal music at first?
I wasn't really into metal music. I come from the punk rock scene, so I was listening mostly to through high school, mostly just hardcore and punk rock stuff. I liked older Metallica, and I like Slayer. And Black Sabbath. I mean, but it wasn't until I left high school, I was in college, and my younger brother, he was still in high school. He was getting into stuff like Obituary and Bolt Thrower, and he was turning me on to that. You know what I mean? He was like, you should check these bands out. He was always the metalhead, not me. So I don't come from the metal world. I just kind of accidentally landed here.
You know my next question, that how did you actually ended up in Burn the Priest, and how did you actually become a vocalist?
Well, like I said, I came from like the punk rock scene, and I had a high school band that never really went anywhere. I don't think we ever did anything other than practice in my buddy's garage. It was not metal. It was like blues, punk rock type stuff. Like my brother was playing me, as I said, like stuff like Obituary, Bolt Thrower, really heavy, aggressive shit. And I heard, what did I hear? One time I was going skateboarding and I heard Napalm Death's new record, and I was like, what the fuck is that? So I was hearing all this crazy, like, type vocals. And one day I just started doing it. I'm like, let me see if I can do that. And it was just a joke for me. It was like, ooh, I can do that, right? Okay. And so at shows in our local town, like, people knew I could do that. And they're like, sing a song with like a local band, like with our friends, go up there and sing in that voice, because we thought it was funny, because it wasn't that type of music. So it was just all a laugh originally, doing these vocals. I just figured out I could do it. And then our city, Richmond, most of the bands we really looked up to were local bands from Richmond. Like, so there was a very complex instrumental math sort of metal scene there, like in the 80s and early 90s. And all of those guys in those bands were like guys from the hardcore scene and punk rock scene who really learned to play the guitar really well. So it brought in the sort of technicality of metal. And with Burn the Priest, I had been in a band with the old guitar player Abe, and the band fell apart, and he was like, I think you should sing for my new band. And I was like, I'm going traveling this summer. You know what I mean? I have other things to do. Our last band wasn't that great, to be honest. I was like, I'm going to go do something else. I came back into town after traveling for like 2 months. I was out in California and Chicago and places. And my buddy Abe told me, we're playing a party tonight. You have to come. And I was like, okay, I'll go check out your new band. I thought they were going to suck. Right?
Okay.
But I walked in, and it was just the three of them at that time in a garage, instrumental. And they were playing, and I was like, holy shit, these guys are good. And I looked at my girlfriend at the time, and I was like, that's the band I'm going to sing for. Because he had asked me to try out, and I had said, no, I'm not interested. But I was like, they're actually good. That's the band I'm going to sing for. And she was like, whatever, Randy. So they gave me a practice tape, a cassette tape from a boombox, and I wrote the lyrics to a song called Dwayne. It's the first song I ever wrote for the band. I went to practice. I sang that one song, and that was in the late summer, early fall of 1995, and I just kind of never left. So here we are today.
So when you started doing like more harsh vocals in the early days, were you sort of like mimicking the other vocalist, or were you like immediately sort of trying to find out your own identity as a singer?
I mean, just I wasn't trying to sound exactly like anyone, but it was just like, oh, I could do this stuff. I liked some of the more aggressive stuff coming out of the hardcore scene, what we would call crossover stuff.
Yeah.
Like The Accused. DRI was more metal tinged. COC Animosity era was very important to me. The drummer, Reed Mullen, who passed away recently, a dear friend of mine, he sang on some of the songs along with their bass player, Mike Dean. And he was a big influence on me. That was the first time I ever did screamy vocals. Actually, it was when I was like 14 in a car going skateboarding, and we were listening to the Animosity record. And I started screaming along to it. It wasn't deep, but I don't know if you know that record, but it's very screamy. And the guy driving the car was like, "You should be in a band one day, kid." And I was like, "Okay, I'll remember. I'll remember that." But it was nothing. I never thought I'm going to be in a metal band ever. It just kind of happened. So, but I like stuff like Septic Death, which is of course Pusshead, the artist. That was his band. Animosity era, COC, The Accused. And some of the more metallic punk stuff like GBH, Discharge,
So which vocalist did you look up to the most when you started doing those screams? Were there like some certain specific vocalist that you sort of looked up to the most?
Well, I would say, like, as far as like metal kind of influences, Lee Dorian era Napalm Death. Like the first era. I love Barney, but I got into Napalm Death before Barney was in the band, The first two Napalm Death records. I really liked Brutal Truth, Kevin Sharp from Brutal Truth. A lot of the more grindcore stuff, you know what I'm saying? Like really underground.
But very extreme.
Very extreme. That was what really attracted me to it, is like these people are... because when I first started doing it, I was just doing like the deep Cookie Monster. And then like, I remember the first time I heard the Napalm Death Scum record. Yeah. I was like, what the fuck is that guy doing with his voice? That's crazy. Or Brutal Truth, just really extreme shit. And so I started doing that, just not trying to sound exactly like them, but just to see what kind of weird noises could come out of me. And then, as we carried on as a band, I tried not to just sound like one particular thing. Like every record we do, Mark, our guitar player, calls them my characters, like the different pitches or whatever. He's like, we need to find a new character. You need to find a new character. He has different nicknames for him. So with each record, try and expand the voice a little bit.
So when you started, were you like losing your voice all the time, and did it take a long time to figure out the right technique for the screaming, or were you like a natural talent for that?
Nope, it just happened.
Okay, so you weren't like losing any voice when you started?
No, I don't lose my voice unless I haven't slept for like a week.
Okay, that's interesting. Yeah. In terms of like playing your first proper big European tour, how was it like vocal-wise to play like many shows in a row? Was it like a difficult thing to handle, or... What kind of memories do you have?
European tour or just tour?
Or even a longer US tour?
Yeah, I mean, we did a longer US tour before we ever came to Europe, I think, as I get older, I need days off more.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, I turned 52 in 2 days, I'm not a young man. So, and your voice... This type of stuff damages your voice. There's no doubt about it. So as I get older, I need more time in between shows. But we used to do 6 and 7, sometimes more shows in a row. Of course, we weren't playing for 75 or 90 minutes at a time. You're playing for 30 minutes, 45 minutes. It's a lot easier to do that, shorter set times. I've never really had that much problems with it. Now what I try and do is just sleep as much as possible. Don't talk in the morning. I do a vocal warm-up just to warm my vocals up before we go on stage. I drink a lot of hot tea. I drink hot tea while we're on stage. with lemon and honey.
Okay, I was actually going to ask you next that how much has your like routines changed when it comes to warming up from the early days to now on? And do you have like a specific routine that you follow?
Yeah, I try and always warm up starting about maybe an hour before we play, and it's like a 10 or 11 minute warm up that I got from a vocal coach in New York named Melissa Cross. I've known her many years, and the warm up just helps me preserve my voice. But yeah, I warm up, man. I do that, but like mostly now I'm stretching because I'm old as shit and my body hurts because I jump around like an idiot, like I'm 17. So the voice is not the biggest concern as long as I get sleep.
Yeah.
That's the big thing, is sleep.
Are there like some certain foods or drinks that you wouldn't rather have before the show that you feel that they affect vocal cords somehow?
I won't drink too much coffee right before we go on stage. That'll dry you out some.
Yeah.
I've been sober for 12 years too. So, I used to just do everything. Everything. It's horrible for your voice, but I did. As I get older, I try and take a little bit better care of it,
So obviously you've released already quite a lot of albums with Lamb of God, but are there like some certain albums that stands out for you as a vocalist that you feel that you have sort of like taken a step like forward as a singer?
There's different moments on all of them. I think the self-titled one, really, I think that was an interesting progression as a singer. There's different songs on every album though. Like I was saying, like Mark is always like, we need a new character, so it's trying to just like do something a little bit different each record, maybe just add something, not totally reinvent the wheel or whatever, but add something that I haven't done before.
So in terms of like having Overlord, the first song that you are singing like clean vocals, was that a game changer, and was like Sturm und Drang an important album for you?
Yeah, and like the thing with clean vocals is that they're easier for me to do. I love doing them. It doesn't hurt so much in the studio, but the song has to be right, you know what I mean? And this sort of, I have to be able to hear the melody for a clean vocal. So if they write a song that will fit to, then I'm more than happy to do it. If they don't, then I'll do the screamier stuff.
So obviously Omens, your latest album, was released last year.
Mm-hmm.
So in terms of like vocals, were there like some certain things that you tried, like new things? Or did you find the new character, as you said?
That's a good question. I'm trying to think. I'm sure I did. It's like we've done 10 records now or something.
Yeah.
It's hard to remember exactly what,
So I have a few questions left, and the second last one is that what were like your parents' reactions when they heard that you are joining a metal band and screaming your lungs out?
I think they're still waiting for me to get a real job, they telling your kid, I'm like, a lot of people are like, what advice do you have for younger musicians on how to make it? And I'm like, keep your fucking job, go to college, get health insurance, it's not easy. Because I don't think any parent is like, you're going to be a professional metal singer. That doesn't seem realistic.
Yeah.
Probably because it's not, but I guess they understand it now, I guess.
Hopefully.
They don't listen to my music.
Okay.
They're from a different generation. So, they know people like it.
You already explained a little bit the next question about what kind of advice you would like to give to a young metal vocalist, but are there like some tips that you would like to give outside what you just said?
Drink a lot of fucking water. Get a lot of sleep. play in front of anyone, anywhere, as much as possible.
Thank you.
Yeah, because that's when it matters. By the way, that's my other thing. It doesn't matter if you can't do it in front of people live. You know what I mean? Like, you have to be able to get out and deliver. You know, and that's how your band gets to do things like come tour Finland. You know.
Thanks, Randy, a lot.
Thank you.